Right, let's go.
Hello and welcome to this episode 25 of the Just Discourse Podcast with yourself or myself.
Third person now.
Third person.
Nice.
Maritime Max and man with a lovely name, Matt Harpe. You may notice today we are in a even more different setup than before.
I know.
We thought we'd switch up a little bit.
Absolutely. We were reclining in home in a little cubby hole, a secret place
Exactly.
where no one can find us. Change the setting, some fresh air, some freshness.
And
Cheers
or
to you, sir.
assassinate us.
Indeed. Cheers to you, sir.
Take care.
Don't forget to subscribe and to like so we can keep these going.
Yes, I'm rubbish at that. Like and subscribe, guys.
We're going to dive straight in and look at Russell Brand.
He's the talk of the town at the moment, isn't he, Matt?
He is. There's some very serious allegations against him. So for anyone who doesn't know, so I didn't know properly the actual allegations until today. He has 4 allegations against him. Number 1, a lady who alleges, so these all occurred between 2006 and 2013. One lady alleges that he raped her in his LA home. She was treated at a crisis centre on the day, which the Times says it's confirmed via medical records. Number 2, a lady in the UK said that he assaulted her when she was 16. He was in his early 30s. Third lady, he assaulted her while she worked with him in LA. And the 4th, he admittedly says alleges being sexually assaulted by him in the UK. This was 2006 to 2013. So this was a 7-year window when these all occurred.
Yeah, it's well, I don't want to use the word interesting. It's quite horrifying to sort of think that people in these positions, a bit like the whole Jimmy Savile thing.
Yeah,
we've had the more the more recent one of Philip Schofield, of using their positions of power and abusing them, really, isn't it, to sexually entice or sexually manipulate people into using them. I guess that's what we say, for their own sort of gratification, which is, it's kind of scary, really, isn't it? And I think on one of those points you made, that the article said that Russell Brand even used one of the BBC cars
to pick her up
and get her to his house.
Yeah.
Now it's absolutely crazy, and there's some, if the allegations are true, because obviously 2 things here. They are currently under investigation, so there's only a certain amount of information that we're going to be able to get from it. And also the BBC and Sky News and stuff like that have been known in the past to be very vague, intentionally, to maybe cause harm as maybe a hit piece to the people in question. However, if the allegations are true, of course he's a horrific scum of a man.
Yes, maybe we take the perspective. I mean, he is a self-confessed recovering sex addict. Yeah. So he openly talks about how he did talk about how he grew up without his father, in a house full of women. There was no masculine presence at all. He had no male role models at all. If my memory's right, I can't remember if he said he was bullied or not. But he just had to. No one told him how to be a man, how to control his testosterone or his aggression and everything. So he was just fucking constantly forever, which is where his rock star personality came from, and things like does it get him to the Greek? Yeah. Where he's just lives up to that personality. Where he was going out with, he was engaged to Katy Perry for a long time. And he's self-confessed to having a problem for all that. It was only in the last 10 years or so that he's had his come to Jesus moment, where he found his now wife and they've had a couple of kids. He's found jiu-jitsu, so he's been centered. He's surrounded by strong masculine presences that have centered him and realigned him from there. So that's in the last 10 years. So that would be in 2013. That's at the end of this time scale when this would have happened there. So it's well within the realm of the possibility that he would have done these things in the time where he has confessed that he was an animal and was a sex addict at the time. Now, whether
he was also a heroin addict as well.
Yes, yeah, and again, he came from a broken home. Now, whether this is a case of his hype for the longest time was that he was a sex icon.
Yeah.
That he was like a god. So, if you were to believe that before his allegations come out, as it were, you would think there can't be that many women in the world. If you're believing his title as a sex god, who would say no to that,
Exactly.
or who wouldn't want that. It's like you and I saying. It's like most men saying no to Scarlett Johansson. It's like no. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah,
or any female now saying no to Harry Styles currently. It's like if Harry Styles had sex allegations come up against him, people would be like, provided they're overage, why?
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because if he, as you say, if he is such a sort of sex icon,
certainly was,
as he's made out to be,
then
you would assume he'd never need to be in these situations because he doesn't need to be.
But then equally,
why would you put yourself in those positions if you didn't need to?
But then equally, if getting sex is so easy for him, the few times that he does receive a no, he's gonna be like, what? He's gonna be a whole jar to the system, and then he's gonna want to take by force because he's like, no one ever says no to me.
True.
It's so like, maybe it might be that way around
another
again.
Power dynamic where it's like, look, I'm not
exactly.
People saying no.
Yeah,
so
no one says no.
I'm not accepting it.
Mm-hmm.
Or
entirely possible.
A bit like the real game of women for say 95% or 90% of males is, if a lady were to give up too easy, it's a bit boring. You don't really feel like you've achieved anything. Maybe he's got to that level where he felt like he wanted a bit of a pursuit.
Yeah.
And obviously it's come back to backfire.
Yeah. So, as you say, from the perspective of if this is all true, then absolutely he should be done for it, as it were. Problem is, if it's that long ago, unfortunately, I have a very close experience of what it's like trying to prove rape. Not from me personally, but from someone I knew, and I know the exact process and the whole process of how it works. It's very fucking hard, and the process of pursuing it to prosecute was like immediate, and it was impossible to prove. Yeah. It's not impossible to prove it
as it happens.
Even as it happens, it's not impossible to prove that it happened, but it is impossible to prove it's rape.
Yeah, and to prove that in court.
Yeah, well, not impossible. It's incredibly hard.
And especially, at the time, if you had experienced a trauma like that, it would be very difficult to constantly try and relive it every day in the public eye, in order to get it through to any type of comeback on the person who's caused that.
So for it to be true, I am if it's true, I wish the absolute very best for all these women, but I don't know how he's going to get convicted of it because it's just going to be hearsay.
Well, let's just
I don't know how they're going to do it.
Matt and I come from a family where we have two sisters, and the thought of anything that to happen literally to those boils my blood. Seriously, like I'd want to go and slit the guy's throat.
Oh yeah,
drawn and quarter.
No,
public execution.
You castrate without anaesthesia.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
The difficulty we have in these situations is obviously because of his fame. There's two potential things that could be happening here. Is he's become a victim of his own fame, and there's a hit piece on him, whether intentional or unintentional, that he has or has not done these certain things, and that maybe there's a certain avenue he's been pushing down in his life that has changed him over the years, and certain powers that be may want to attack him. The fact that the oldest allegation was in 2013 doesn't necessarily mean that they're untrue. It's just it's very difficult, even in any related crime, as we've discussed. It's much more difficult when if it were to be some type of sexual assault, to want to deal with it at the time, because you're probably in a lot of trauma, you want to get out of it, and just try and reject it and not think about it. But as we all know, if you tried to prove anything from 10 years ago, it would kind of be a waste of time. Any type of robbery, bank fraud, anything like that, it's going to be nigh on impossible to prove and or almost worthless to pursue. And again, the difficulty we have is these days, although we have a slew of media outlets out there that hopefully can give us the right news, the majority of them, especially the mainstream news that we spoke about before, i.e. BBC's and the Sky News, they're extremely vague with what information they actually release. Now again, that could be based on the fact that it's an ongoing investigation, so there are certain things they can and cannot talk about, but because they've had a history in the past, COVID, various different things, even 9/11,
yep, JFK,
it's very difficult to piece together a proper idea of what's happening. I mean, we read an article just before we came on from the BBC. Now again, me and Matt and I have never sort of hid our thoughts on the BBC, purely because, again,
stand-up organisation. Well done, everyone.
Exactly. The BBC is a government-funded organisation by the public, and it should be, what's their slogan, isn't it? Paid for by the public, for the public, or something like that. And the problem is they tend to be completely a propagandist peddling machine, don't they?
Yep.
So it's very difficult, even if you've seen one propaganda piece, to believe them, when we've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, basically every single one is a propaganda piece. It's hard to really understand and take anything they say seriously. The point we're making is we read the BBC article about Russell Brand, and it's from a lady called Rachel Schreier, and her title is a health and disinformation reporter. Now we thought, let's just double check what the definition of a disinformation report is.
Disinformation is false information which is intended to mislead, especially propaganda issued by a government organisation.
Now, the BBC, is it not a government organisation?
Oh, it certainly is, Max.
So, in her own title, she's basically saying that she's about to spout some propaganda.
She's a propagandist, yeah.
That
is her title, yeah.
She is a propagandist. So, the points we're making on this, when we're reading through the article and trying to develop an understanding of what's actually happening, is and this is why we mentioned the word hit piece, is Russell Brand, especially over the last 10 years, well, he's always been outspoken, but over the last 10 years, he's really sort of hit the nail on the head with various different world events.
Yep.
Now, they would be described as conspiracy theorists, but a conspiracy theory is, people or organisations colluding together to do something against the public interest, or even not necessarily against the public thing, against anything.
Yeah.
Now, the word conspiracy theory has been weaponised over the last, again, 10, 15 years.
It's actually created after JFK died.
Yeah.
That's when it's created.
By the CIA.
Yep. Because they killed him.
Exactly, yeah. And, and it's been used to demonise the people that really sort of choose to critically think about certain situations and deviate from the sort of mass media narrative. And, the point on that one is all of these articles are very vague. And I know we touched why they could be vague.
Yep.
But Russell Brand has been very outspoken over the last 3 or 4 years, especially about COVID, making claims, and we'll put it in inverted commas, because they're not really claims, they are actually truths.
Yep.
But the BBC will say that he's built his YouTube on half-truths. Now, we had a scan through most of the points that Russell Brand has been making. They don't tend to be half-truths. Most of them are pretty much solid facts.
So the ones in the article that Schreier was talking about, she quoted some of his headlines. One is, his thumbnails from YouTube. One is Bombshell Lab Leak Report. So this is in part of the list of things that they're saying are conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Bombshell Lab Leak Report. Another one says you've been lied to about why Ukraine's war began. And another one about Bill Gates, but it's quite vague, so I don't know exactly what they're referring to. But both of the first two are not conspiracy theories. They are proven fact of what there is there. So while you were actually talking, I actually went to his YouTube and just saw what other titles we've got. So we've got, so you've got those two there. We had hang on, Obama did what? For example, I don't know, Yemen drone strikes, I'm going to imagine.
Yeah.
They lied to Hawaii victims about this. I don't know, maybe the Hawaii government, the fact that where everyone died, they're now going to buy the land,
Yeah.
so that the residents of Hawaii don't own the land, so then the government will own the land.
Yeah.
Where are you?
And one of the points I do know he's made is anywhere you see on mainstream media will say claims
Mm-hmm.
the vaccines are bad. Now, for healthy sports athletes to drop dead on the playing field has never ever occurred, or very very rarely occurred in our lifetime.
Hello.
Now since COVID, we've got a friend with us.
Hello, Fluffers. How's he get? Come on.
Jump in. But yeah, since COVID, there has been a number. There's been a good 10 or 15 people on live TV that have just collapsed and died, or at least collapsed, haven't they?
Yep.
Which we'd never really seen before.
Mm-hmm.
But he made a point of that the vaccines were all funded by the public. We all paid for them, basically, for our tax money.
Mm-hmm.
But we never saw the profits. The profits went directly to the shareholders of the pharmaceutical companies.
Yep.
Now, whichever way you flip that, that's complete daylight robbery.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I understand there's elements of the pharmaceutical industry that are good, medicines and healthcare and all things like that.
Mm-hmm.
They are good for humanity as a whole. But there was a point that he made that if they can profit massively off the back of health scares and stuff like that, as a business, they're going to want to propagate that, aren't they?
Absolutely.
They're going to want to create situations like that so that they can profit.
Yeah, of course they will.
If I could create a reason for someone to need my product fairly easily worldwide, it's going to happen, isn't it?
Well, so I actually I was listening to a podcast earlier with a gentleman called Alex Berenson.
Yeah.
So he is a journalist who used to work for the New York Times back in the day. So he's covered the Iraq War to actually figure out actually what was going on. And so he was one of the many journalists who was like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So he was one of them. He then moved on to, he left the Times and moved on to Twitter. So he wrote a book called Today with Children, which talks about marijuana and drugs overall. Really interesting stuff. But then he was talking openly throughout the pandemic about COVID, about the efficacy of all these things, and about the drug trials that were done and why this doesn't work, and mRNA technology and everything. And the US government went to Twitter and said, "Oh, Alex needs to go."
Yeah.
And they kicked him off.
People,
And they kicked him off. So this all came out in the Twitter files. So Alex sued Twitter, won, got back on Twitter. He is now suing the government and Pfizer for what they did to him, effectively, or tried to do to him. And he's probably most likely going to win. So
that's one of the main reasons Elon Musk bought Twitter, wasn't it? Because he was disgusted at the fact that the leader of the Al Qaeda could use Twitter.
The Taliban can use it, yeah.
But someone who's, a United States citizen fighting for the good of the people, was being banned. Yeah. The president of the United States was being banned. Yeah. Now, if you don't like the guy, fair play. Not everyone likes Donald Trump.
No. Fair enough.
I'm sort of in the middle with Donald Trump. There's a lot of things he talks about and pushes that I respect and believe in. Yep. But there's other things that he does that I don't respect and believe in.
Well, when it took Obama was in office for 8 years, and ISIS went from strength to strength. Trump turned up and got rid of them in 2 months.
Exactly, yeah. The best story of that is he called up the guy, whether this is true or not, but it seems to be true because they went and they nearly disbanded, and then Biden got involved, and then it went 10 times worse. Yeah. But he basically called up the guy who was running ISIS and was like, "Look, I know where you live. Yeah. I'm gonna drop a bomb right on your house." And apparently he just sent him a photo of his house with army people in the background,
nice.
And that's what they should be doing. Other than that, what are these people in these positions of power doing to help us?
Well, as you say, mate, they're in positions of power. They should be there for the greater good of all of us and the collective good of everyone. But politicians is a very, very cushy position. Partly because if you look at the US is just irrevocably corrupt. And the same thing with us. When you're looking at any of these positions where insider trading is legal, you're like, huh?
That's actually crazy. Yeah.
Well, because if you look at Nancy Pelosi, for example,
this is the one that I was thinking of.
She's a more successful stock trader than Warren Buffett.
And it's funny that obviously she's always going to have the inside information.
Yeah.
Of what's happening.
She gets paid at like 150 grand a year, and she's worth 76 million, and you're like, what?
Now, we'll again make the point of that we wish, always want to be impartial in these situations because, you get information from all sorts of sides and sources, and you can never 100% confirm that you are right or wrong unless you are in the midst of it. And even then, things can be misconstrued and misunderstood. However, as you say, it seems very fishy, if not impossible, for someone to create wealth like that and pretty much win every single time on the stock market.
Yeah.
Considering they're based in the governments where the information is going to come out first.
This is crazy.
Cool.
So she's done. There's a website called Capital Trades. So I typed in Nancy Pelosi, and it came like, are you looking for Nancy Pelosi trades tracker? I'm like, yes, please. Let's have a look. This is the Capital Trades website. She's the Democratic Congresswoman for California. Of course she is. She's done 70 trades since 1987.
70 trades, that's not a lot.
56.4 million.
I bet she's hit every single one.
Every slam dunks, every single one of them.
Now, as you say, is that there is a stock tracker where it says what stocks you can buy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was reading recently, you can get alerts, and you can put certain people you want to sort of alert when they buy things.
So you do the same.
As soon as I've got some money, I'm going to be doing that.
Yeah,
follow all of the Pelosi's and all the people in government, because it's pretty much guaranteed. Again, we talk about money and business and these side of things, because one thing I will say is most people get confused with the reason for having money. Money buys freedom. Freedom means you can do what you like and travel through this realm as you wish. I'm not interested in money. I'm interested in the freedom that money can give me.
Likewise.
But we know money is the way out of the matrix that we're sort of born into. So that's why we're so keen to make money. That's the point on that. But yeah, if we can follow these trades and make money out of this, then why not? Do you know what I mean? If we don't, this is how I see it, is although what they're doing is immoral, they're doing it towards us. But if we just follow them and buy ourselves out of it, we're basically fucking the system.
Well, and here's my question as well. You would understand this more than I would. The value of the stock is X amount when she's trading it. If more people buy that stock, does that devalue the stock?
No.
Okay.
Because the demand will increase and the supply will be the same, therefore the value would increase.
Gotcha.
So the more people you can get on it, that's why with all the cryptocurrencies as well, you'll see like some shitty cryptocurrency, and they'll a bit like the whole Andrew Tate thing. Part of his real world or whatever it was he would build up these like Instagrams and these TikToks and these YouTube channels with all his content. He would like teach people to build up all this content so that they'd get loads of traffic, and then they'd be able to monetize it and make money from it.
Yep.
Because he knew that everybody was kicking off. But as a byproduct of that, because it was the content that was being posted, he skyrocketed as well. And his value as a person skyrocketed. But my point on that is, a lot of the cryptocurrencies, they will have like a marketing campaign. They'll start this shitty cryptocurrency for 0.00001 of a penny, and then they will invest whatever it is, a figure, and push it out there, basically like propaganda. And they'll be like, right, buy this because it's going high. It's it's going to skyrocket. Blah 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 blah. And of course, when it does, they bought it for 0.0001 of a penny. Goes to 1 penny, and their 1 penny is now worth $1 million. And it's quite immoral, because it's basically a Ponzi scheme. although in as we've discussed before, any business or anything like that fails, it's kind of a Ponzi scheme, isn't it? Because you're putting money into something in the hope of getting a return, and if you don't, then is that a Ponzi?
Well, here was the question I had. I was speaking to someone about it the other day. Was the term Ponzi scheme created before Bernie Madoff?
Yeah, so there's a guy, his name is Ponzi.
Right.
Let me get the definition up for you.
I'm gonna do it.
Go on, you get the definition up. I haven't read masses into it, but there's a guy called something Ponzi, and he basically created the first Ponzi scheme.
Oh no, I
That's where it's coming from.
pyramid scheme. I want Ponzi. Pyramid scheme definition is kind of hilarious. Ponzi scheme, a form of fraud in which belief in the success of a non-existent enterprise is fostered by the payment of quick returns to the first investors for money invested by later invested.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Now, does it say who the guy is?
Who was Ponzi?
It's like Alfred Ponzi or something like that.
Who was Ponzi? Charles Ponzi.
Yeah.
Invented the scam early 20th century, convinced investors they would get 40 to 50% on their investment in international postal reply coupons within 90 days.
And it's usually something very ambiguous, so people are like, fuck, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
And then get in. And same as the Bernie Madoff thing. Now, this is the thing with the Ponzi scheme. If you get in early, you can make money from it. Because obviously you're one of the first people to get in. And from Bernie Madoff didn't end up making any money because he was the one that got caught and he was running it.
Yeah.
But there were investors in him, big investors at the start and during, that were making millions, if not billions.
So would they have cashed out?
Yeah. So say he was guaranteeing people 10% return.
Yeah.
If they got in at the start and they were putting £1 million in, they were getting the 100 grand out. Obviously they're losing the £1 million, but obviously they've only got to get 10 times, and they're getting their money back, and then they can cash out. And as long as he's got more people coming in, the big investors can cash out, or anyone could cash out.
So, the gentleman called Jeffrey Pickler appears to have been the largest beneficiary of Madoff's Ponzi scheme. He's 7.2 billion.
And he basically was blackmailing Bernie at the end because he found out what Bernie Madoff was doing. He was like, "Look, how do you want to play this? Like, I'm going to take control of this, and I'm going to be taking all these profits. Or I can just throw in the bus. What do you want to do?" And obviously, Bernie Madoff had no option.
So my question with that, because of the very nature of the business, is it a case of that Bernie was running a scheme or a scam, if you were, or was it just the fact that he got outed because some people started withdrawing their money, which then snowballed other people to withdraw money, and then people were like, "Shit, there's not enough money in here."
Basically,
Is that not just what a bank is?
Effectively, yeah. But
Because
I've had this
you physically can't have everyone withdraw their money from a bank.
I've spoken to people about this before, and a lot of people can't quite comprehend because most of them don't really know what money is and where it comes from. But money itself is a Ponzi scheme.
Yes.
Because if you lose faith in the dollar, the pound, whatever it is, and people switch over to gold or Bitcoin or whatever different currency, then the value of it is nothing. Because our currency used to be backed by gold, it had a value. The value was the gold. But you just had a piece of paper that said, "Look, I'll give you £10 worth of gold." But instead of going to the bank and getting my gold out, I'm going to give you the banknote. That's what money is. It's a banknote. So look, here's
a literal note saying this is how much it is.
This is £10 worth of gold. There you go. Instead of me going to the bank and exchanging it and giving you the gold, I'm going to give you the banknote. You now have the banknote. Your £10 is in the bank.
Because it's easier to lug around than gold.
Exactly. You're not going to get robbed. If you do get robbed for your banknote, the gold is still there and it's still got your name on it. But then obviously it evolved into fractional reserve banking, which is a whole different kettle of fish.
Go on.
So fractional reserve banking is when the bank only needs to hold a certain amount of reserves in the bank, usually about 10%. So say they had 100 grand in the bank, they could lend out £1 million. And with that £1 million, when that money got paid back in, they could then let's go back. The money they lent out, because it wasn't there, they basically just printed the notes. or at first they printed the notes, then when it came off the gold standard, they just typed it into a computer and the numbers came up. So say they started with 100 grand, they could lend out 900,000. Now when that 900,000 was coming back into the bank, they could lend out 90% of that.
Yeah.
And it would just
And
snowball
go
like
up and
that,
up and up and up.
go
yeah.
up and up and up. The reserve would still be the same.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
the
Oh,
money
shit.
was spiraled out. So effectively the reserve was going down each time.
Because the percentage will shrink as the money gets
Exactly.
bigger. Fuck.
Exactly, yeah. To the point where it was backed by nothing in the end because they didn't really need it, and people's confidence in the Ponzi scheme was there, and the currency was there and being used.
Mm.
So it's mental, and we're seeing this a lot. Well, it's not covered in the media, the mainstream media at all. But with the BRICS nations coming off the
Euro dollar.
the petrodollar, which is a global currency of oil prices, all paid for and priced in dollars. Now the BRICS nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa,
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia. There's
Probably,
like
yeah.
15 other countries that are now joined.
Yeah.
They are using Chinese yuan
Damn.
to buy and sell oil, which is seriously affecting the superpower that us in the UK, you know, we used to be a huge superpower. Now we have got the financial sector, or what we believe to have the financial sector. Do you know the City of London?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not. It's its own separate entity. It's not part of the United Kingdom.
Ah.
A bit like the Vatican City, it's its own sovereign state, and you know that because you have in the City of London has its own mayor and its own judicial system, and only the people within inside the City of London.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So you know the King or the Queen cannot enter the City of London without the permission of the City of London's mayor.
Who's that?
It's not Rishi Sunak. I can tell you
No.
that. No, Rishi Sunak is the Prime Minister. It's not Sadiq Khan. It's basically a closed corporation,
Nicholas Lyons.
a closed company corporation.
Yeah, Nicholas Lyons, the Lord Mayor.
Yeah, Lord Mayor.
Shit, what's the implication of this then?
So we believe in the UK that our power comes from our financial system, which it does, or other people's belief that it's our financial system, but it's not our financial system. We are completely separate from
It's the City of London's.
They have their own laws, their own legislations, their own mayor, their own country,
What's
effectively.
the actual area as well? I want to know. Oh, that is tiny.
So it'll be all the financial districts basically.
So it's Museum of London, St Paul's Cathedral, Fleet Street, Sky Garden, Tower, just outside the Tower of London,
Yeah.
Moorgate, St Mary Axe, the Gherkin, Barbican.
All the good bits.
Shit me. I think I was playing a gig there over the weekend. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
That's nuts, dude.
It's mad because these things aren't, necessarily spoken about openly.
Yeah, that's
People don't
crazy.
really know. And or, I've had it with people before. And I'll explain this to them, and I don't know why. I like to call it cognitive dissonance, but without them actually knowing the real information, they'll assume I'm wrong, and attack me for it.
Well,
And I'm like, no, I'm not talking feelings here. I'm talking facts.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but you're wrong. And I'm like, just Google it. You've got it on your phone. You can learn anything from it.
Yeah.
And they will refuse to do it. It kind of confuses me.
Yeah.
It's like when we talk about this Russell Brand thing now. As soon as it happened, Russell. As soon as it happened, I thought, okay, most people in common conversation went straight to, he's a filthy pig, disgusting, shoot him, kill him down, like the fucking medieval times where they saw a witch and they'd burn them at the stake.
Or even better in medieval times, if anyone was accused of rape, the person who accused the accuser would have to then duel the accused.
Yeah.
And then whoever won that bout was the person who was right, regardless of who's right or wrong.
Interesting.
That's hilarious.
But my point on that is when this happened, I thought, right, let's try and look into a little bit, because we all know what the mainstream media are like. COVID fucking proved that to all of us. They had, on the BBC, they literally had a death count, which fucking wound me up every day. Like, my family members would be getting so scared and live in fear about what's going on. They literally have a death count. What they're not looking at is, let's put that death count next to the standard death count of the UK, it was pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah.
There was not much difference in the amount of people that were dying.
Yeah.
The people that were dying were, I think, was it under 55? Was something like 0.01% of the population.
That was overall deaths was 0.01.
Overall deaths
was 0.01. Yeah, even less than that. It won't, because 80% of the people in the ICU were the ones who had 2 or 3 comorbidities anyway.
Yeah, and when they were open, and they openly said this on the news, and people still, like, when they were living in so much fear that it fucking just went straight over the head.
Yeah.
They were saying, if you die from a motorcycle accident, but you had COVID,
it's a death by
COVID death.
Yeah.
If you fell down the stairs and you impaled yourself on a knife, but you had COVID, that was a COVID death.
If you got bitten in half by a shark, it's a COVID death.
Now, bearing in mind, you could have COVID and have 0 symptoms whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why would you need to fudge those figures unless there was something untoward going on? That's what I didn't understand.
So what was happening in the US, and I can only assume was happening here as well, every hospital that logged a death as a COVID death got a monetary beneficiary for each death. And particularly over there, because everything is for profit, they labelled absolutely fucking everything as a death.
Well, you know, in America, a standard tablet in the UK, which would be like £6, would be like 250.
Yeah.
It's absolutely mental.
Yeah.
And an ambulance over there, if you go get an ambulance, it's like 10, 15 grand.
Yeah. Well, what, and this in particular, to circle back to how we started off, again, if this is true what he's done, reprehensible, obviously horrific person. I don't know how they're going to prove it, but horrific person, or how they're going to prosecute him. But what looks like more likely, and I actually hope this is the truth, is this is a hit piece, because I don't want anyone to have been assaulted.
No,
it looks more like a hit piece, the same way with Tate was more of a hit piece, the same way with Rogan they tried to take him down for saying the N-word, the same thing with Jordan Peterson, they tried to take him down for saying this and that.
They've started hitting Rogan again now, haven't they?
About what this time?
Oh, about the conspiracy theories and pushing
them. Whatever. But he's bulletproof, you can't take him down.
But the crazy thing these days is, because the media machine has become so powerful, people don't even have to have done anything and they can get completely assassinated.
It's the Salem fucking witch trials, mate.
Yeah. It's actually crazy.
Because the rape of the day is crying witch. And the problem we're having with this is because, well, I'm jumping a step, which I'm saying it's the same comparison, because they need no proof. You just have to shout that word, and people immediately, even if that person is completely innocent, will just back away from them, like he has the actual plague, because like, Jesus Christ, they're not going to say that for no reason. Same thing with the witch, and it's the whole West where hysteria came from, was from Satan's witch trial. And as a result of that, we're going to have a lot of boy who cried wolf. So for the people who are actually victims and are actually been assaulted, they're not going to get any help.
It takes away the validity of the people that have actually had this horrific event happen.
The women I know who have been assaulted in various degrees were really pissed off with me too. They were really pissed off, because they're like, this doesn't help anyone. This doesn't help us. This just gets fucking rich bitches attention. Even if it's true, it doesn't help us. And obviously the long term effects of that are a completely separate story. But they were just like, this doesn't help anyone, because we can come out and people only pay attention to this lot because they're rich and famous, or because their targets are rich and famous, or both. Whereas, like, for me, who's just a normal person, no one gives a shit. Or the system's like, oh, we don't care.
Exactly, yeah. And that's why you have to search for impartiality in these situations too. One, to keep your mind sane, and two, to really get a better understanding of what's going on in the world. Because if you only believe what you're told, fuck me, you're going to lead a very, very difficult life.
Well, this is the thing that you allude to when you're saying people with cognitive dissonance about what you're talking about. People who are not curious don't want to be told that their worldview isn't what they thought it was, because they're not.
Your perspective.
Yeah, they don't want to hear that, because they're not curious people. So they have these established thoughts in their head, and they don't want those changed. if you're coming out and saying that the government doesn't actually have your best interest in heart, they want to plug their fingers in their ears and stick their head in the sand.
Because
they don't want to hear that.
It's easier to believe that than to go
easy,
through.
Exactly, it's easier to believe it than to go, shit, everything's down to me.
No.
Because they've outsourced everything to the state, because your state is, the state is your daddy, state daddy.
Yeah.
And people who are
the
not
government
curious.
has my best interests at heart. They'll look after me no matter what. They don't tax the shit out of me. They don't put unfair things in my way. They have everything out there to for the best of me and my family, etc.
Yeah, exactly. The NHS is it's not the people who they have the mentality that the people at the NHS are a lazy bastard or anything. It's not to do with the fact that Brexit happened, so all the hard working talented people are keeping kicked out of the country, and it's not the fact that the government is always leeching money from the NHS, and also the government's not under supporting and underfunding the NHS. That's not true. They're all just lazy people who work there. That's why it's shit. And you're like, no.
Yeah.
If anyone knows anyone who works in the NHS, you are the soul of a fucking saint to want to work there, because that is horrific.
Hard work,
That's really hard fucking work, emotionally and physically, because they do big fucking shifts.
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing in that scenario, in that situation, that winds me up is it's a bit like the bully at school. You can try and ignore him and avoid him as much as you want, but he's still going to find you every now and again and give you a beating.
Yeah.
Or you can just fucking take a couple of punches in the face, slap him back, and he should, most of the time,
Or even better than that,
not come back to you.
even better than that, take a couple of jiu-jitsu lessons, a couple of boxing classes.
Exactly, yeah.
There you go.
Rather than hiding and shrinking into yourself. Become a better person, be a stronger person, and they have to work harder then to overcome you and what you're doing. And at the end of the day, we live in a free country, but it's slowly being eroded away. Now, there's a piece I want to go into in the next episode, and it's the law of the land and the law of the sea. So, the law of the land is basically everyone's free.
We'll do the next episode.
We'll move on to the next episode, but with a little taster.
Go on.
Law of the land is everybody's free. The Magna Carta, land is free. No one can be charged for anything. But maritime law and money. Sorry, money is all based on maritime law. So, what kind of asset is money?
Physical one.
What would you call it? You'd call it a liquid asset, wouldn't you?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Where do you store your money?
The bank.
What's on the side of a river?
Riverbank.
Would you say that money flows?
Sure.
Cash flow?
Yeah.
Also water flows? It's all based on maritime law.
Interesting.
Which is not the law of the land.
Yeah.
So we'll move into that one for the next episode. It's a very interesting topic. I've been reading a lot about it recently.
Let's go.
It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Cool.
But right. Thank you very much for joining today. We moved on to quite a few points. But one thing I would always like to say, and as we mentioned a couple of times, is you've got to keep an open mind in this world. This world is absolutely fucking crazy these days, especially with all the being continuously bombarded by different media outlets and information sources. Is you have to be more discerning than ever. Otherwise, you're going to lose yourself, and therefore, you are fucked, basically.
And not in a cool Eminem way.
Exactly. Take care.
Till next time.
See you next week.